There are demonic spirits out here who do not want you to win.
Yeah.
And sometimes they can come in the form of a stranger or come to you and throw your day off. Or let's say you're on your way for graduation and then boom, someone want to cuss you out and turn this good thing that God has set for you, and then you mess it up because they did this. Like, don't think it's strange when you're on your way to be successful. All these forces come out of nowhere because the enemy doesn't want you to win.
Right.
He don't want no one to win.
You know, first and foremost, I just want to ask, like, how you doing? Like, I ain't see you in a long time.
How am I doing? I'm doing good. Like, I feel like God, like September, it just new blessings, new everything, new doors, new opportunities. And it's happening fast.
Right.
Like, this podcast is opening up. Someone else asked me to be a guest speaker on their panel. I'm just like, okay, God, like, okay, I'm just ready for the doors. Whatever just opens, I'm just going to go through it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think you've been doing a really good job, though. I wanted to commend you on your Instagram presence. Like, the consistency with your reels, the substance in your reels, like every video that you post, like I think it's important and it has a reason. So I applaud you on like what you're doing right now. So let's get into the conversation. So one thing that I see you talk about a lot on your platform is friendships.
Yes.
So I want to ask, like, where did that originate, or like why is that so important for you to talk about?
It's funny because I feel like majority of my life I had sorry friendships.
Wow.
And so I just feel like it wasn't until like this year I actually had good friends. And so I just talk about the differences from what I learned then, from what I learned now, from a new group versus the old group. So that's why I'm so passionate about it.
What do you think were some of the challenges historically, and like what have you found has changed?
Yes, I think just being wise about who you surround yourself with, you know. And I think for me personally, my main thing was to be around people who celebrate you but don't tolerate you. Because, you know, in college, you know, a lot of people, you just want to go to parties with some people, get drunk with some people. But like after that, they're not asking how you're doing. They don't care about your mental. Even if you get sick, some people don't even take care of you when you're sick. So it's I kind of felt like I was just hanging out with people just cause, but not really people I can do life with.
Right.
So yeah.
As we get older, it is important to find like friends by association.
Yeah.
Because like you mentioned, like a lot of times when we are younger, we build friends based off like whoever is available to us. So we might be the only black people in this particular demographic, or we might be the only two people in this group that are from a certain city.
Yeah.
So you cling to people based on that. But as you get older, you realize that it's important to cultivate friendships where there is alignment.
Yes.
Where like we was talking about this a little bit off camera just now, but if you got homies that's going a certain way or doing things that you don't believe in, you got to go and find friends that are within that realm of whatever it is that you're striving to be like. So if your homies is going to parties every weekend, flunking out of school, getting drunk, but you recognize that this is important for you to accomplish this, you want to be on honor roll, whatever it is, you got to find people that can help you get toward that path. And it's not that you got to say like, you know, F y'all, like we ain't cool no more.
Sometimes
but it's just
I
like,
said that I ain't gonna front.
No, I mean,
Sometimes
it is.
I said that I ain't gonna front. Sometimes I said that.
It is instances where I feel like you need to do that just for like your own sanity and
because
emotional
you know where
state.
you're going though.
Right.
You know where you're going, so you can't carry. You have to carry yourself a certain way. Just like we were talking off camera, like when you are getting more people to your page, more influencers to your page, you cannot be out here getting drunk every weekend and throwing up.
Right.
Like you can't do that.
Yeah, every time people see you, you got to maximize or capitalize off that interaction because that might be the difference in that follow or subscriber based on what it is that they seeing you doing.
Yeah.
So I think my next question I wanted to ask you was, do you feel like people place too much value on friendships these days or too little value?
Sometimes I feel like little. I feel like a lot of people put emphasis on relationships and boyfriend, girlfriends, and wives and husbands, but you still need friends that you can talk to, that you can pour out to, that you can do life with. You know, like I know, like my stepsister, she's married, has a baby, but they have times where they hang out with their friends.
Right.
Like one person will stay at house with the kids because you need to have people you can also do life with because like it takes a village, and you can't throw away your village once you like get married. No, you need your village to be with you as you get married as well.
Yeah.
So.
And it's crazy that you mentioned that because when I met y'all, you know, that was at a time period where the reason I was drove to church actually because I felt like that was like my last option, and it shouldn't have been that way. Yeah. But, you know, moving here a year ago, two of my closest friends live here in Atlanta. We in a 10-minute radius of each other. And, you know, we fell out for whatever reason. I just feel like it was like bad communication between us all.
Yeah.
And I was just like really going through it, just trying to like be in a new state, being so far away from my family, not having no sense of support, and just trying to like navigate this thing on my own. It took me a while to like find a job. Like I was going through like so many obstacles, and to the public, I don't think nobody back home really knew that I was struggling as much as I was. But it really hit me hard that two of these people that we all came here from Philly together. So it didn't really make sense that like we wasn't cool no more or like hanging out no more, and like nobody talking about why. It seemed like I was the only person that cared. Yeah. So when I saw Melly talking about church and like her experience with it out here, she moved here too from a different state. I'm like, I gotta try something. I'm like, like,
I need something.
How I'm gonna meet people out here? So, you know, I ended up going to church, and that was one of the best things I did. Even though I didn't, you know, end up returning to that church many times. I think I came back once. Yeah. And I haven't been in a long time. But at that particular moment, I desperately needed that. And when you talk about, you know, what you're talking about, I feel like me and my friends, we split because, well, this is just from my point of view, but I feel like we weren't aligned anymore in terms of like our beliefs and like what we were striving toward or what was important to us. I feel like in college, due to my experiences, I was in a space of like mental health. So like I wanted to figure out why I was the way that I was. So I became like this huge mental health advocate. And you know, for like guys that are anywhere from like, I say 22 to 30, men don't want to talk about their feelings. They don't want to talk about their emotions. And I feel like in me going on that journey, I kind of like isolated myself from my friends, but I was always under the impression that like, you don't necessarily need to have the same interests or like same type of personalities to like cultivate friendships. But I realized that my friends, they weren't as interested or passionate about any of that stuff as me. And it began to like show like in our relationship. And of course it was like much more complex and deep, but the fact that we weren't aligned in certain areas, I feel like that is what led to us like drifting apart. So now I'm in this space where I'm like, trying to cultivate better friendships and like find my groove, and I'm realizing that these relationships are exactly what I needed, because we might both be in a relationship, or we might both be trying to like better our relationship with God, or like whatever it is. It's like I feel more peace, and that's how I was able to like make amends with that situation. Is like I realized that it goes back to what you said. You gotta be around people that don't tolerate you, but people that really celebrate you and enjoy your presence. So that was like, it took a while for me to overcome that, but it just shows the importance of like having good friends and how bad friendships could really take a toll on you. Yeah. Do you feel like with what you went through with your friends, do you feel like it took a toll on you emotionally or?
At the time, because like who wants to stop being friends with someone you knew for years? Nobody, you know, but my mindset really started to change. So what if God like did the biggest favor for you? Like what if he like everything that hindered you from greatness, he just took it away. Now you have so much room for God just to bless you even more. Because one thing I'm learning about God is he cannot bless you if you still are aligned with people who are toxic, aligned with people who are holding you back. He can't give it to you. Okay, if he did, then they'll mess it up for you. Right. Because you be so busy during your blessing, worrying about them, taking care of them. It's like, no, get them out the way so God can bring the right people. So one thing about God, he will like take people out, but he will replace them with better ones. Right. And that's exactly what he did for me. Like when I met my friends, I'm just like, dang, like y'all taking me out, like y'all buying me gifts. Like I was amazed. I was so shook. I'm like, thank God. Like I wish I would have left them sooner, you know, the old one sooner. But I'm grateful for it, because now I have the life lessons, you know, that I can actually share with other women and men too, about like be mindful, like who gets close to you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and it's crazy that like when you go through experiences like that, you can also end up like really questioning yourself, like, what did I do wrong, or like what's wrong with me? And I went through a season of that where I was like, yo, like what did I do wrong, to the point where I felt like I was begging those guys to like be my friend again. Like I put my ego to the side, my pride to the side, and then it just came to a point where I realized, I'm like, yo, if these guys wanted to like fix this or like genuinely wanted me around, they would have made more effort to do it. Like it's clear that they don't want to do this. So I'm like, I gotta be a lone ranger. And luckily, I'm the type of person, like, throughout my life, I've been through enough situations where I've always been able to pivot.
Yeah.
So, like, I've gone through a lot of dark moments, and somehow I feel like God just has, like, favored me. Like, he always gave me, like, somebody or something at the right moment that was, like, enough to, like, get me over the hump. So I feel like I learned a lot from that experience. But friendships at this age and
they're
throughout
so
life,
necessary. Like, being a lone ranger is good for a little bit, but not in the long run. No, like I'm so tired of always being the strong friend, the go-to friend. No, support me, okay? Hug me, support me. That's what I'm doing this time.
no, that's important that you just said. So, like, for people that are listening that, you know, play the role of the helper or the nurturer in their friend groups, how do they get to the point of getting people to reciprocate that energy to them? Like, what would you suggest?
Like, honestly, I just feel like if they're really your friend, I don't feel like it has to be asked, but sometimes you do have to ask, like, hey, can you support me?
Yeah.
Like, can you, like, be here for me? And sometimes they'll say yes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes don't be afraid to ask the question, you know, but I feel like at the end of the day, if they're really your friend, it wouldn't be a struggle to support you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's very true. But one thing I realized as I've gotten older is that a lot of men don't approach their friendships with the same care that they would as a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
And as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that it's not the same energy, but it is the same level of, like, intention and effort that you have to put into the relationship for it to grow.
Yeah.
Because we all got jobs. Our parents are getting older, and certain people might have health complications, and we got to show up in a lot of ways that we didn't before.
Yeah.
So with that, it's a two-way street. Like, you need your friends to, like, check on you sometimes, or like be there for you. It can't be, I'm the strong friend, so I do this all the time.
Man, no.
So I think what you said is important about, like, being able to advocate for what you need. Like, sometimes you do gotta tell people straight up, like, yo, I'm going through this right now, and I would like for you to be there for me in this specific way. And that's uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it's necessary.
Yeah, but I just feel like when you're really with a friend, it's not like something hard for them to do to support you, you know?
Right. And that's the part that's 100% true.
Yeah.
So I would ask you, in looking back on any of your friendships and anything that you've been through, you talked about having bad friends. Was there ever a moment where you've reflected and been like, I could have done this better to be a better friend?
Okay, in my opinion, I feel like I did a lot. Like, in college, like, birthdays, I got you. Like, you need a ride, I got you. Like, I feel like I did a lot for them, so I don't know how I could have been a better friend.
Yeah.
But I think the downfall with a lot of those friendship was, especially with females, I don't know if this goes for males too, it's like once people start getting boyfriends, they be like so far stuck up their butt, like mornings, nights, afternoons with their boyfriend every single day. And it's like they forget about their friends.
Right.
And a lot of my female friends, even though we're still cool, but a lot of our friendships really fell off because they much rather be with their boyfriend and then the boyfriend's friends. And then, especially in college, it's like our dorms are already small enough, trying to play house in these tiny dorms. I'm just like, what in the world? And I'm just like, you know what? It's okay. This you do you.
You know what I learned though? When you are that friend that, like, always shows up and you, like, there whenever they need you, that could actually make people respect you less. It's almost like they become desensitized to your effort because they know, like, Deja gonna do it. Deja gonna show up whenever I need her. So you would think in your head that, like, this would make them appreciate me so much because I'm always there whatever way they need you. But it almost can have, like, a backwards effect because I think sometimes people like us can be overbearing a little bit sometimes with that nurturing effect. And it's like, you just want to make sure everything is okay and you want to make sure everything is good. But sometimes you don't know, like, your boundaries and thresholds. And maybe that could be overwhelming to a person. But I think that comes with, like, just time, growth, and communication.
And learning how to say no.
Yes.
Because usually I was like the yes man, like, whatever you need, I got you. Like, call me, I got you. You need a place to stay, I got you. But it's like, I'm in a place where I just want to say no. And be okay. And sometimes people take offense when you start saying no and they automatically think you're a bad friend. It's like, no, like, I'm finally setting my boundaries because you took advantage of me for so long. So now you're going to be in my shoes and you're going to understand how annoying it is to always have someone to ask you for something and they have nothing to give.
No, I couldn't have said that any better. If I had to answer the same question, I would say I have to learn how to like pick my spots a little bit better. I'm so much of a thinker and like a reflector. So in that, like I be getting all of these insights and I just want to share it. But I realize sometimes with like my delivery and my approach to those conversations, sometimes it's like I could have a one-track mind. So when we get into these debates, which I love to have, sometimes I'm so committed to like proving my point that like it can almost like ostracize somebody from the conversation and make them be like, dang, like it's like it's your way or the highway.
Right.
And I didn't realize that I was like doing that. Well, I didn't realize that the impact of that on people.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing I learned is like, it's okay to be honest and like share your truth or share your opinion, but not so much to the point where it's like you preaching it like it's gospel, like people should follow this because you said it, because I'm realizing that everybody has a whole set of experiences and a perspective that they got from these experiences. So when you come into a conversation, your goal shouldn't be to like influence them or to like overexert your opinions. It really should just be, how can we achieve understanding and respect for each other's point of view? And I think that was the biggest area of growth that I've learned over the years, and I'm still learning. I'm just a passionate person.
We're just taking it day by day.
Day
by day.
That's all you really could do. So since we on the topic of like people and relationships, what's been your experience in the dating pool in Atlanta?
It sucks. Honestly, like dating, I don't know if like our generation is like under a curse, whatever, but it's like dating is so hard nowadays because like some people are not as serious as other people, and you know I'm only 24, but honestly I will say this.
24?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. Go ahead.
24. But honestly, me personally, my dating experiences have been a little bit better dating men who are like 30 plus versus men that are like 20 something.
Why do you feel that way?
Because some guys in their 20s, they don't know what they want. They still want to have fun. You know, they don't want to be in a committed relationship. With me, I'm more like marriage focused. So dating guys who are like 30, we're on the same page about a lot of things, you know. So I would say dating older men has been a little bit better, but overall dating in general, I think it's just so hard to find someone that actually aligns to what you think as well and actually want to build a future with.
So I agree with you. I'm going to play devil's advocate real quick.
Okay.
Though. What have been the drawbacks or the challenges to dating older men? Like, why do you feel like those situations haven't worked in your favor per se?
Well, it wasn't. I would say this: they're nice, they're being respectful. I don't have to worry about the bit. I don't got to worry about nothing. But some of the drawbacks is like location-wise. Some people want to live in New Jersey. Some people want to go back to Africa. Some people want to, go. That's true. That is true. That is so true.
Yo.
The last guy I dated, he was 32.
Yo, I just wasn't expecting that.
No, it's so true. I dated this African man, and we're going to get into that.
Right.
I dated him, very respectful, paid for everything, very romantic, but he told me he wants to go back to Togo and be involved in politics.
Right.
And then he said if he ever were to get a house, he don't want to live in Georgia, he want to live in New Jersey. Wow. And I'm just like, our long-term goals don't match. Yeah. So I might as well just break it off now versus us getting feelings and we know like we don't even want to live in the same locations. Right. You know. So I feel like location is really one of the biggest drawbacks that I've seen so far. So, but he's a great guy though. We're still friends.
So it sounds like just location, and then like, you know, as people get older, living circumstances, it can change at any given time. So like you said, it's just much harder to like build something given those type of parameters. But I would agree with you. Like, I feel like I'm 26 and I'm just now getting to a point where like.
Don't you have a girlfriend?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I feel like I'm just now getting to a point where I don't want to say I know what I'm doing because I don't know it all the way, but this is the most confident I've felt in navigating a relationship, and even before getting to a relationship, just navigating myself as a person. And I would say since I was 23, it took intentional effort and like work on myself, whether it was therapy, journaling, learning to become more emotionally intelligent. It really took time, and then I had to apply all of the things I was learning to the dating pool. So then I realized, I was just telling one of my homies this, I don't think it's a man or a woman thing, because I think it's just
a people thing.
A people thing and a maturity thing, because when I got to that point, I'm like, all right, men have been the problem. That's been a narrative for so many years.
Yeah.
Men are cheaters. Men don't want to settle down.
Yeah.
Men can't provide. Men are weak. All of these things. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to take this time. I'm going to build myself up.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to therapy. I'm going to come out here. I'm going to be totally different. And when I hit the dating pool, with the way that I was talking now and like how I approached it with a new set of eyes, a lot of these girls was looking at me like, what? Like, nigga, if you don't, like, what is you talking about? Like, so I realized, I was like, oh, like, this ain't like a man-woman thing. Like, this like a people stage of life, like, maturity type of thing. Like, and I feel like, you know how we talked about before we got on camera, I said men get away with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like women get away with a lot. I feel like y'all have the luxury of being pretty or certain advantages that y'all have in society where men, we have to bring so much to the table just to even sit with y'all.
Yeah.
So I feel like that places little impetus on like y'all to be accountable and grow in certain areas because y'all have taught from since y'all young that y'all are the prize.
Yeah.
So if you constantly taught that you the prize and like men got to do all of these things just to be on your level, what are you working on? Like how are you becoming a better person? Yeah. And I was telling my homie that yesterday. I was like, bro, it's not like a man versus woman thing. I'm like, it's like a people thing. So like, you just gotta meet people that are equally yoked with you, that are doing the work in their lives and intentional about growth or like trying to get to like where they want to be.
Yeah. So I have a question. So what made you want to settle down with the woman you have now?
She my best friend. I would say like, I met her like 6 years ago, and we got like a scholarship. And at that time when I met her, I fumbled the bag. Like my first time talking to her.
See,
listen.
Y'all always be like, oh, I didn't know.
No,
okay.
Listen to me. I didn't fumble the bag in a real way. It was just, I wasn't as like polished as a speaker as I am now. So I didn't even know how to tell her what I wanted to like say to her. This is my first time meeting her. We in a room, like a whole bunch of scholars, like everybody that got the scholarship. So we went to dinner. They took us to an escape room. And I really wanted to tell her like, how you doing? Like, my name is DeMonte. I think you're really beautiful. I would love to get to know you. I would have loved to say something like that. But as a 19-year-old, I just wasn't that mature or able to do that. So she was very quiet. And I would just go up to her and be like, yo, like, are you having a good time? Like, why you by yourself?
Right.
And I think she told me this now. She was like, you was annoying me because you kept asking me like, was I okay? Or like, why I was so quiet? Because I kept saying like, why you so quiet? Because I ain't know how to like say I like you.
Right.
So I think by the end of that, we ended up exchanging like Snapchats or Instagram or something like that. And I saw that she had a boyfriend. And she was with this guy for like 4 years.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I met her. I've known her and been a friend over the years. But I think things really changed like a couple years ago in like 2020. As part of this scholarship fund that we're a part of, we go to like a leadership camp every summer in this area called the Poconos. So a couple years ago, we went back and I'm in this space of just like, I'm finally starting to like grow and mature. Yeah. So we just had a conversation and I was really just being a friend to her. And we realized that we had so much in common. Like this was like our first like real conversation. So we basically had a super similar upbringing. She's in a helping profession, I'm in a helping profession. So we both just had this intrinsic motivation to like give and like be there for people. And a lot of our values was the same. So from that conversation, we just kept working on our friendship. Being her friend, it allowed me to get to know her in like a low risk way. Whereas in a relationship, it's very risky to like put all your cards on the table like that. So like loving her platonically through all those different seasons of our lives, it just made me be like why not her? So she's like, she amazing.
And I think most importantly, y'all are friends first. And I feel like that transition is a lot easier versus like dating and, you know, now I have seen people that have, you know, got together off of dating sites, but I think it's when it's more authentic when you're friends, so you actually built that trust, rapport. So it's easier to transition. Yeah,
and I feel like people in our generation, we move so fast.
We do.
And it's like,
oh my gosh.
I don't want to say there's nothing that we could do about it, but it's just like we got so much access to each other with social media and everything that it just be like, what you doing? Where you at? I want to hang with you. And I feel like we be thinking that we getting to know each other, but a lot of times we be getting to know each other in all the wrong ways, if you get what I'm saying. Like, we be having sex and doing all of these things before we even really get
like,
to
do
know.
you even like the person for real?
Do you
like,
know their middle name? Like, you don't know
right.
nothing about this person, and y'all like engaging in this way. And I'm guilty of that. So I just feel like our generation, we just speed through like so much.
Slow down.
Do you feel like that has impacted your dating experience, Indy? Like, you know, moving a little too quickly?
I mean, I haven't really dated that many guys, but like, okay, so let me give you a story. So one of the guy friends that I really, really like, he know who he is, so I'm not gonna say his name.
I know who he is too. I think you told me about him before.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Okay, so we actually met off of a dating site, and I wanted to be with him. Like, he was fine, tall, dark chocolate, 6'1", you know what I'm saying? He had a job. And I'm just like, wow, this man is so fine. Like, why can't you just go ahead and be my babe? Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But he was like, I just want to be friends. I just want to get to know you. I'm just like, for what?
Yeah.
Like, and so over the years, even though I tried to like push him into a relationship, he's like, no, Deja, like, I want to get to know you.
Yeah.
And so we've been friends for 2 years.
Wow.
2 years. And there were plenty of times I'm just like, I want to cut him off. I'm done with him. But he was such a good person. Like, he was never rude, never disrespectful. It was me trying to rush. But yeah, we've been friends for 2 years.
You know what's crazy? Now that I'm an adult, I feel like sometimes it is better to just be friends with people at certain times. Because, like, it's certain girls in my life that, like, we tried to talk. We didn't do anything sexually. And it just didn't work out for whatever reason. But I recognize, like, yo, you a good person. They like, you a good person. Like, why we can't still be friends after this?
Yeah.
And some of those girls are, like, some of my closest homies, like, to this day. And sometimes you do just need, like, platonic, like, safe friendships, like people that you can hit up, like, yo, like, I'm thinking this just from a woman's point of view, like, what would you think, or what would you do in this situation? Like, we need that.
So I'm definitely fine. Like, I'm not the jealous type at all. So if my like boyfriend, if he has a female friend and she been here before me and they've been close since like elementary, I don't got no issue with that. Some females do, but I don't, because I feel like it's good to have a female perspective, a male perspective, because sometimes I do be tripping. I ain't gonna front. And some of my guy friends be like, you need to come down. It's not even that big of a deal. I'm just like, okay, cool.
So I noticed that you said friends before you, and you said if they've been friends since like elementary school. So is that you saying, say if he had a friend that he met at work, do you feel like that would be weird?
I mean, I don't know. I guess like I just have to see how close are they trying to be, you know? Now, cause you know we do have coworkers, you know what I'm saying? If they're not like, I guess I don't know. I think it just depends on scenario basis. But if it's like completely platonic, like I don't have an issue with it, because I do have male coworkers. Now I'm not close with them, texting them late at night, but if I have a question about work, I'm not afraid to like call them, and be like, hey,
I feel you. So it's more like situational.
Yeah.
I got you. So before we get into the next part of the conversation, I want to ask you, like, what is the ideal man for you? Like, if you could build a guy, what would that be for you?
Okay, so looks wise, you know, I want a tall man.
Yeah.
Now I'm 5'4", and I'd be like, he gotta be 5'10" or above. And the last dude was 5'9". I was like, you know what, this gotta be good. It's not that bad. It was not that bad. So ladies, if he's 5'9", give him a chance.
Right.
Give him a chance. Short guys need love too. So as long as he's taller than me, okay, cool. Usually I prefer a dark skinned man. But you know, if Lord want to bless me with a vanilla man, that's fine. I'm not gonna, you know, I'm gonna see what the flavors are like.
Right.
Okay. I think personality wise, a man of God, someone that I can pray with and talk with, someone that I can do life with, and I can be successful with in every area of our lives. So this is successful in our family, finances, emotionally, and just build that trust over time. So that'd be ideally. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's like, even though if he may not hit every single category, it really just depends on like the chemistry at the end of the day. Because I have met nice guys, but I never had this unction like, you're mine. Right. You know what I'm saying? So who knows what the Lord's going to do for me, you know? But
I'm going to keep praying on that.
Yeah. Hook me up with your homeboys.
Not the ones that I was
No.
Oh, man, I got you, though. If I find somebody, I got you.
Cool.
So, you know, going to the nitty gritty of this conversation, like I said, we met at church. Mm-hmm. So as I got to know you and like see your platform, you are a devout Christian. Like you don't play about God.
I sure don't.
And you make it known in like all your interactions. So I'm always interested in how people get to that level of
yeah.
faith. So I just want to know, like, what's your story and like how did you get so close to God?
Okay, so all my life I've been a Christian, but I was never like serious with my walk with God. Like, I didn't, honestly, even when I prayed, I didn't feel like God heard me. So it wasn't until I was in college, my junior year of college, my friend group, we stopped being friends. I had a boyfriend at the time. I broke up with him. And I was just by myself in my room just crying. I'm just like, Lord, like, I want friends and I don't got nobody. And so I was praying and I was like, God, and honestly, during this time of prayer, I really wanted to break up with my boyfriend because I felt like he wasn't my husband. But,
Right.
Sometimes when you're lonely, you just kind of be with people just,
Right.
So I asked God, my junior year of college, I said, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And I said, I need to know from you and you alone that you hear me and you see me. If not, I'm not really sure if I'm ever going to be a Christian ever again in my life because this is for the birds.
Right.
So one of the questions was I asked him to teach me about just about relationships and finances because at that time I was really broke and I didn't have friends either. So I asked him to teach me about that. And then I asked him to put some money in my hand. Just let me know if you hear me. And mind you, like I was in my bedroom. I was just like, Lord, like if you hear me. So the next day on Sunday, I heard a voice in my head said, go to church. And when you're in college on a Sunday, you sleeping in.
Right.
Like you not getting up for church. You want to sleep in. So I was supposed to go to the 8 a.m. service, but I heard the voice again. I was like, oh gosh, I guess I missed my time. But they had a 12 o'clock service. So I went to the church and I sat in the back pew because, I didn't want to be seen. I'm just
Right.
like, okay, God, like if this is you, I'm here. I just want to see you show out.
Right.
Okay. And then the pastor was like, if you're sitting in the back, come to the front. I'm just like, Lord, I ain't trying to go to the front. I'm not the front. So he called me to the front and I sat in the front pew. It was a small church.
Yeah.
So while the preacher is preaching, he was literally talking about finances and relationships and how they go hand in hand. And I was like, nah, like, no, this is not him.
Yeah.
And then he was just going around praying for people. And then in the midst of him preaching, he pointed to me. He gave me $200. And he said, yeah, God told me to give this to you. I was like, for real? Honestly, I was shocked. Like,
wow.
Like my whole body was like, are you serious? So I cried and passed out. I'm like, Lord, what's going on? And so after that encounter at church, the next day, I had a woman in the cafeteria prophesy over me. So people who prophesy, they usually hear, the Spirit of God talking to them, and they just tell you what God says to you. So I was in the cafeteria, and then a girl came up to me. She's like, Deja, you're so precious to God, and you know that He hears you, and He cares about your tears, and you don't have to cry no more or hide no more. And I was like, who are you, and how do you know my business?
Yeah.
And so, her name was June, and that's my middle name too. I'm just like, okay, all right. So after her, I had like multiple encounters, like random people, people I do not know, like a whole stranger is pouring life into me. And then after that day, I went to a women's conference, and then basically this woman of God, she's standing up in front of me. I went up to the altar only to support my friend. My friend was going through a lot, but she spoke to me and she was telling me about my life. And then she started rebuking the devil, rebuking the enemy. And she told me, just write down everything that I want to see, that I want God to do in my life. And I had all these black women like praying over me and putting their hands on me. It was like, what is going on? Like, how does this lady know my business? Like, she knows everything. So ever since that day, I just had multiple encounters, and I was just hungry to learn more about God. I was like, okay, God, you're real. You proved to me you're real, but I just want to learn more about you. So just to sum all of that, because of those experiences, that made me just want to learn more about God and how He really sees me. So,
that was really beautiful. Like, I enjoy hearing that. I had chills listening to you. So it seemed like Christianity and what comes with that, going to church and like the fellowship, that was like a point of refuge for you when you were at like a time where you needed something. And it's like God came into your life at that time period and it was exactly what you needed.
Yeah, it scared me.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and honestly, like throughout my life, I didn't know what prophets were. I didn't know what prophecy was. Like, I didn't know none of that. My church was Baptist, you know what I'm saying? So when now the church I'm in, they operate in the apostolic and the prophetic. And I'm just like, wow, like there is a spiritual side to Christianity that people don't know about.
That's another thing. That's important that you said that. That was a big reason why you know, I didn't return to the church that I went to, and it was because I grew up in like a Baptist Methodist church, so it was very different for me being in an apostolic. That's how you said it. Yeah, being that it was an apostolic church, I feel like certain things just didn't like resonate with me the same. Like the atmosphere was beautiful, the praise and worship was beautiful. It was just like the word. Like I was just searching for that feeling, and you know, like that invigorating feeling when it's like, I feel this, like this really hit me in my chest. I didn't get that in the 2 times that I was there, and I just was like, I don't know, maybe I'm gonna keep trying, but
some church don't hit it. I ain't gonna front. Sometimes like, this not it. Your church, the atmosphere you go to and the church you go to matters. Because if you're in that church where they're not really operating with the prophetic, or they don't acknowledge Holy Spirit as a person and let Him have His way, and they're just more like, okay, well, we're gonna laugh for a few seconds, eat some donuts, and then like talk for a little bit, then you can be like, dang, what is this? I don't want that. But the church I'm in now, like the stuff I'm seeing now, I'm just like, I wish everybody could see what I could see. Then they'll understand why I act how I am. You know?
And it's crazy that like you feel so passionately about your church, and I have a totally different experience. And it's crazy. I say it's crazy because you talk about prophecy. Remember when I think it was the first or the second time I went, yours. They like was prophesying to me. And y'all was like, yo, Tay, like, they really like, you know, was like prophesying to you. They said you like, I think he said I was like a king or something like that. I forget. And I was just like, I don't know what this means. Like, I don't know why he chose me. And it's nothing against that church. Like I said, that's a beautiful church. Like the environment of it, everything was just amazing. And more so it's just like the word of coming up in like a Baptist, you know, a different denomination. It's totally different, like you said. But I actually went to church again recently, and it was because of my girl. She was like, let's go to church. It was a church that I heard about a couple times, and I was like, I'm gonna go eventually, but I ain't go. But it's called Victory.
I heard of it. I've been there once.
I love it so much.
Really?
And for me to not go to church in so many years, I was like, this is it. And it's crazy because the environment of your church, I'm not gonna say it's better, but I just liked it a lot more. It's spacious. The choir is amazing. It had all of these positive elements. It's like a mini mega church. And I like that. But this church, the thing that got me about it was just the pastor. Like the messenger, he reminded me of back home. Like it felt like Philly. And I come to find out like he's from New York, but like his presence and his demeanor felt like an uncle or a friend. Like it was like real and like relatable. He talked like me. He dressed regular. So it just made me feel like
this is home.
I'm like, this feel like home. Like I don't have to like sacrifice no parts of myself to fit into this community. And he's the type of man that other men want to follow. And I'm not the type of man that's easily impressed by other men. Like, cause I feel like I got my own morals and principles. But this was one of those instances where I was in the presence of somebody and I was like, yo, this is a strong black man right here. And when he was speaking, I'm like, he got that type of presence where when he talked, you listen to what he's saying. So that's like the whole way he was like putting it down and everything. I'm like, yo.
Who's the pastor?
His name is Philip.
Oh yeah, he is good.
Yo, he really
he is good. I seen some of his clips online, but yeah, he's good.
And like I said, I haven't been to church for so many years. So to walk in there and like, I thought that part of me was like gone forever. Like I never thought that I would feel the spirit again in that way. And I think that's why over the years, when I've run into people like you, I've always been like more intrigued than anything. Like, how do they get to that point? Like, is they faking or like, what is it? And that leads right into my next question I want to ask you. Is there a level of delusion that comes with being a Christian? And I say that respectfully. I'm only saying that because I feel like sometimes Christians don't have like the rationale to explain certain things that happen, or like for like, let's say like the everyday person that's trying to understand Christianity. I feel like sometimes like Christians can be so extreme in their views that they can't break things down to like layman terms for you. So I just want to ask you, like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's true. You do need like a level of faith, you know, because the word God tells us like people who are not spiritual, they can't understand spiritual things.
Right.
So when we talk about things with the Spirit and Holy Spirit and tongues and all this, if you're not a spiritual person, you can be like, what is that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I do think sometimes people just overcomplicate these things. You know what I'm saying? But I think the first and foremost, people just gotta learn how to love and listen. You know, cause I think people have questions, and it's okay to have questions. I feel like sometimes people do, you know, like they have questions, but sometimes you haven't met a person that's willing to sit down with you to actually answer some of your
so
questions.
true.
You know, so when people ask me questions or DMs, I'm just like, yes, please ask me questions. Like I'm not afraid of questions. So I do think there is a level of yes, you need faith. Yes, you have to be in the spirit to understand spiritual things, but that can be taught.
Wow. So I got a couple questions from what you just said. So there is a group of people in society today that are like hybrid Christians. And for a long time, I would consider myself one of those. And I would describe a hybrid Christian as somebody that believes in God. You might go to church sometimes. You don't read the Bible all the time. But you consider a large part of yourself to be like worldly spiritual. So you might be like, I meditate. This is like a spiritual practice for me. Or I have these set of practices or rituals that I do that keep me in line. Some people might take it a step further to be like, they believe in zodiacs or those things, and they consider themselves to be religious and spiritual. So do you feel like it's a difference between religious and spiritual, or do you feel like it's one form of spirituality?
Well, Christianity is spirituality and it's religion. So spiritually, we talk to Holy Spirit, who is God, and then religiously, there is like terms and conditions that God be like, hey, I do have rules and I do love you. So it's both. It's both. You know, as Christians, we should be meditating.
Right.
You know, we should be talking to Holy Spirit and meditating with Holy Spirit. You know what I'm saying? So I think the confusion is we often meet Christians who are not spiritual. So when you talk about meditation, they can't relate because they think meditation is demonic. Meditation is not demonic, but it's more about what are you meditating about, makes it demonic or not. So I think for me, I would say I'm both. Like I'm spiritual and I'm religious. You know, so I'm both.
I think that was so beautifully put, and that was probably the best explanation someone has ever given me in terms of that. Like the way you broke it down, it made it like accessible. And I feel like a lot of Christians, you don't get that level of understanding or education. Like you'll just hear, that's demonic. And that's the stuff that makes people stray away from Christ, where it's like, we all are coming from like different levels and different knowledge bases. So it takes people like time. So you can't just come to people with a one size fits all approach to developing their relationship with Christ. Some people do need to be spoon fed. And I think that's the part that's missing. Like you said, is a lot of people aren't willing to get on that grassroots level with people and help them develop their relationship with Christ.
That's what I think that's really missing in Christianity is a lot of people are not being taught on how I can be spiritual. And some spiritual practices are demonic, but people don't know why. So when you're telling people it's demonic, but you're not explaining why, and then be like, what's the big deal? You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm really appreciative at my church. They really explain to you about the spiritual world and how real it legit is and tell you like, hey, this is why Holy Spirit wants us to do this thing this way. Yeah.
No, that's so beautiful. And I think what was important about all that you shared is like having those people that are kind of like translators that's teaching and like, you know, just putting their arm around our shoulders. Like, you know, I could show you the way. And like I said, I grew up in the church and I'm talking like I was in the choir.
I was in the choir.
I swear to God. I just tweeted this like a week ago. I was like, you don't know shame until you gotta do a solo on Sunday.
Or an Easter speech.
Yep. So I was super involved in my church. Like I was in men's ministry. I was an usher. I went on men's retreats growing up. And my pastor was actually like a father figure to me. I don't really have any uncles. I don't have any grandfathers. I didn't know my dad for many years until this year actually. So my pastor played that role for me for so many years. And I think being young as a child, a black child, not having a father, growing up in a Christian, you know, household, I associated my walk with Christ with my pastor. And as I got older, you know, your discernment grows, you get more wisdom. I went through situations where I saw my pastor demonstrating qualities that I was like,
Yeah.
how you preaching from the pulpit and you doing
Yeah.
these certain things? Like, it's not aligning.
Yeah.
And we had an instance where he did something that hurt my feelings like really bad, and it also hurt my family members. So me being like the self-proclaimed like man of my household, I'm like, if you hurt my family, like it's up. Like
Yeah.
I don't rock with you no more.
Yeah.
And because I associated my walk with Christ with him, because that was my reference point, I stopped going to church.
Yeah, that's
completely.
for a lot of people.
And you know what? Going to this church a couple weeks ago, I called my pastor and I spoke to him for the first time. We both was like crying. And like I told him like how I don't think he knew how he hurt me and like how that impacted my family. And like we both was crying on the phone. I let him know like, yo, like I went to this church today. I had no intentions of calling you. I didn't know what was gonna happen. But I was like, I was so captivated by the word that when I got out, something just told me like, call you and mend this relationship. So I called him. I told him my point of view, and I was like, I want to hear your point of view. And we were able to come to like some form of common ground, and we just let each other know like we loved each other, we missed each other, and we don't know what the road ahead is going to be like. But for now, we just happy to have spoken.
Yeah.
And throughout those years, I actually had a guy who I met at that church growing up. He was the camera guy. And he actually was another person. He a little bit older than me. He was mentored by my pastor as well. And this guy was somebody that was a lot more relatable. Like he was like street, like he embodied what I come from, like in the hood growing up. So like, I'm like, oh, this is a good reference point. Like this guy dressed like me, talk like me, whatever it is, like cool. And he kind of like has taken me under his wing since I was a teenager. And I remember when I stopped going to church and all those things, he never judged me or he never told me like, go to church, like you need to do this. He just would teach me just like you just did. I remember it was a time I was experimenting with all these different religions, just trying to figure out what I wanted to believe in. So I was studying Islam, studying Buddhism, and nothing really like ever trumped Christianity for me to be like, I want to make the change. But I did like the meditative practices from Buddhism, so that's something that I equipped. And I remember he would listen to me as I'm telling him I'm doing this, and he always would have some type of like word or like biblical reference at the end of the conversation. And because me and him had such a fruitful and like abundant relationship, I listened. Like I never took it as like he's trying to coerce me to believe in God or go back to church. And like I said, we've been close for years. And it's funny that when I called my pastor, he was like, you know, I've told this particular person, he was like, I want to make things right with DeMonte, but I just don't know where to start. And this person, he never forced me over the years. He told my pastor, like, when it's on his heart, he will come back to you and this relationship will be mended. And after I had this conversation with my pastor, I went back and I thanked him. I was like, bro, I didn't know that he was telling you that, but I was like, thank you for letting me just go through my process. And it took 8 years, but it happened. And I'm just grateful that he never let me stray too far away from Christ. And that was like a really like healing and like rehabilitative like moment in my life. So that's the importance of like anybody listening out here that claims to be like, you know, a strong Christian. I would say like be a teacher, like be somebody like a steward of faith that could really like bring other people in, make it accessible. Don't just teach the way how you know, feel like it should be taught. Like try to meet everybody
where they at.
Yeah,
meet people where they at.
And I feel like that would make Christianity so much more like welcoming and accessible to the everyday person.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. So I would say we talked about a lot of this stuff, but I would just say, what is your favorite part of your walk with Christ?
How God literally never left me hanging. Like anytime I walked on faith, He got my back.
Yeah.
Like I may not have I do have support from my families, but the support that I really, really need, like tangible resources, God never failed me. So I think that's the beauty of like building my relationship with God is Him really proving to me that He's legit my provider. Like time and time after time, when I walked on faith, He always provided. Like for example, like God told me to move out my parents' house. And it was the first time I ever lived by myself. And honestly, at the time, I was only making $18 an hour.
Yeah.
But by the grace of God, I got approved for an apartment. All my furniture, I got a great price. and then like everything just came with ease, you know. Even like last year, I feel like God told me to quit my job. I'm like, how am I gonna quit my job with no offer on the table? But literally the next week I got an offer. Like it was just like times and times where He said, walk on faith, I got you. He proved Himself to be worthy and faithful. So I'm just like, okay, God, well, you tell me to do something else. Well, I mean, we're gonna rock with you.
You know what's so powerful about what you said is I was just talking to the same guy that I was telling you about, and I was telling him what resonated with me about going to church. And he said, part of why it's so hard in our walk to believe in God and have faith is because we don't believe that God is really fighting against something or protecting us from something. So it's easy for us to be like, when stuff go good, we could be like, oh, this is so amazing. Like, thank you. God had to do this because where else would it come from? But when it's not so easy to believe, or, you know, you're going through hardships, people don't really believe that God, or maybe they don't know that God is really fighting against something. It's really an enemy out there that's up against you, that's trying to make sure that you don't have these wins or have these good moments in life. This might sound crazy to some people, but if you believe in God, you know, you will believe that. You have to believe that it's something out there. It's forces that are working against him.
That's real.
And when he said that to me, I just was like, yo, like, that's deep.
Real.
That's so
it's real.
deep,
Spiritual warfare is very real. A lot of Christians don't talk about it, and a lot of people are not educated about it. I got a book for y'all to read. It's called Deliverance from Demonic Covenants. That book explains spiritual warfare. But that's real. Like, spiritual warfare is legit real.
And I've heard that term over the years, but I never really took the time to like educate myself. So if you could explain it for myself and the viewers, like, what is spiritual warfare?
Yeah, so basically what you said, there is an enemy out here. Like, I know a lot of people, honestly, basically good and evil in the world. And there are evil forces who do not want you to win, who do not want you to be successful. And sometimes, you know, this is why in Ephesians 6:12, that verse is so real. There are demonic spirits out here who do not want you to win. And sometimes, you know, they can come in the form of like a stranger, or come to you and throw your day off. Or let's say you're on your way for graduation, and then boom, someone want to cuss you out and turn this good thing that God has set for you, and then you mess it up because they did this. Like, don't think it's strange when you're on your way to be successful. All these forces come out of nowhere because the enemy doesn't want you to win. He don't want no one to win.
And that's crazy. Like, when you, just from this conversation, it's been like so like revealing and telling. If we and you would have had this conversation, let's say 2-3 years ago, you would have got a totally different me. But I resonate deeply with everything that you're saying, because now I understand why people praise the way that they do. Why people's faith is so strong, because they know that, yo, it's really forces that are working against me. So when you see that you are favored, and you see what God brings you from, or what He helps you overcome, it's like, of course I'm gonna shout. Like, of course I'm gonna be so open with my walk with Christ, because like, I know what He's doing for me. And years ago, I didn't understand that. Like, I would look at people, I was just like, you shouting? Like, what is you doing? Like, that don't make sense to me. But through this conversation and conversations I've had, like, I see now, like, why people's faith is as strong as it is. And I probably would never get to the point where I shout. Who knows? But like, I do feel God strongly than I have before. And I'm just excited for this, like, you know, new walk, and like where I'm headed with this relationship. So
you learn a lot. I got some books for you.
You got a book?
Well, I do got some books, but I got some better books that actually like do a better job explaining like what spiritual warfare is. And actually like hearing testimonies of people who were Satanists, people who were witches, people who were actually legit in the occult. And I feel like it's kind of better to hear from them versus like a person who never been in the occult to share their experiences. I'm a great guy, John Ramirez. He is a great person to look up. He was an ex-Satanist, and he literally talked about like putting curses on people or making people drink blood, and it was just like really demonic stuff out here. Like, he legit did. And now he as a Christian, he gave his life to Christ, but he really just teaches us like how much of we really are ignorant about the spiritual world and how real it is. And he does a great job educating about spiritual warfare.
No, that's so dope. Do you ever feel like in your walk with Christ, there was a word that came to you at the right time when you need it, and it's something that sticks out to you? So is there like a Bible verse where it like, that's like the one that comes to mind whenever you need it, or it just impacted you at a certain moment in your life?
Yes. It's Exodus 14:14. And basically what it says is the Lord your God will fight for you and you will hold your peace. And that hit me so strong because last year I was trying to grow like my platform, my Instagram, and basically someone hacked it. I lost all my followers. I lost everything. And I was so mad because a lot of people were watching my content, like people from Forbes magazine, like big people were watching my content. And then I felt like at the height of my stuff, it got attacked. And I was mad. I was mad. And I was telling God, I need to get this page back. And how could he do this? But I felt like God just like, Deja, to start over from scratch. And so now in 2022, I got all my followers back, more people, more celebrities are actually wanting to connect with me on this page. And the funny thing is, the guy who hacked my account gave me the account back.
For real?
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
He gave me the account back. I was like, what?
That's wild.
Bro, it was scary too. I'm just like, he was in Nigeria, you know what I'm saying? And then it was so crazy, y'all. Like, this man that hacked my old account, he would DM my other friend. He said, give me your money.
That's what they be doing.
I'm just like, dude, first of all, you're 20.
That happened to,
Yeah.
That happened to him.
Yeah.
That's not funny, yo.
It's not funny. It's not funny, but it is. And I'm just like, dude, you are skinny. I could beat you up with one hand. Like, I'm not afraid of you. See, honestly, a lot of these people who are hacking, they're teenagers.
Yeah.
They're not adults. They're teenagers that they just want money.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do it because, wherever they're at in the world, they're struggling for money. You know what I'm saying? But I got my page back. And he gave me my phone number back, my email account. He gave me everything back.
That's amazing.
Shook.
So that verse, it means a lot to you.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, if there was a verse that like really stands out to me, I think it's like a combination of two. But it's Ecclesiastes 9:11. And it's something that my grandmom said to me. My grandmom, she used to speak in parables a lot.
Yeah.
Like, she just always had like a African proverb or something.
Yeah.
And she would just say it at the right moment. I'd be like,
what's that, Grandma?
like, where you learn this from? But it was a moment where, like, I think I had graduated from college. I was in my master's program, and I was telling her, like, I'm watching my friends, like, they graduated from college. They got lots of money. They traveling. They doing all of these things. And I just, like, I felt behind.
Yeah.
Because up until this point, we was running neck and neck. And I was sitting on my grandma's bed, and I was just down. And she was like, the Lord said, the race is not to the swift, but to he who endureth it all. And I don't know why, but that just hit me like hard.
Yeah.
Like, the race is not to the swift, but he who endureth it all. Like, going, this might be people that's getting to stuff faster than you, but it's about the marathon, not the race. Like, you playing a whole different game. And like, when my grandma said that to me, it was like very like comforting, because I feel like my life story, I feel like I've always been like a late bloomer kind of per se. Like, everything for me was like a struggle, and somehow I ended up in the same places as people, and I'd be like, I don't know how I got here, but I feel like God just kind of like always favored me. So whenever I go through a moment and I feel like, stuff is not happening as fast as I would like it to, or in the manner, I just always go back to Ecclesiastes 9:11. I'd be like, the race is not to the swift, but to he who endureth it all. So obviously it's something I'm supposed to learn or take away from these experiences, and that's why God has me going through them. And when I was talking to my big homie a couple weeks ago in that same conversation, he was like, this is why God is like taking you through these experiences, because you are a messenger. He knows that you have what it takes to teach and bring up these young men that you are leading, and the people that look up to you. Like, people look up to you, like, people follow you. So God knows that by putting you in these situations specifically, he know that you gonna share your testimony from it. And he was like, that's why he taking you through.
That's so good.
It just was, he be knowing, yo.
Yeah, and I tell people this, maybe your harvest is bigger than what you think. So some people may be chewing on a little bit, but you're going to have a lot for your harvest. Yeah. And my testimony is when I graduated college, I was unemployed for like 6 months. Everyone around me was getting the jobs, the promotions, the everything. I was unemployed. And so I felt really bad. I'm just like, dang God, like, I'm graduated. Why if I don't have this? But long story short, I'm in a place now, I'm making the most money out of everybody that was around me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But, God saved the best for last.
For sure.
Yes.
So before we end the conversation, I want to give you an opportunity to plug your book and like anything that you're working on. So like, tell us about your book.
Okay, so on my Instagram, I am the real Deja, Deja. If you click the link in the bio, I do have a book out called Healing with Jesus. So it's a 30-day women's devotional, and it's teaching you how much you are loved by God. I do have a website dropping next month. It's called Deliverance with Deja, where you can actually book a call with me, and we can actually discuss some of your toxic behavior patterns that you actually want to heal and get free from, and just giving you new habits and suggestions so you can work on. So that will be coming out soon. Deliverance with Deja, coming to a town near you. And yeah, hopefully, maybe I have a podcast too coming out.
Yeah.
Maybe I should.
You got to speak it into existence.
Okay, I will have my podcast.
Right, there you go.
January.
You got to affirm
2023.
it. So you plugged your Instagram, you plugged your book. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about before we go?
I think I said everything I need to say.
All right, amen. I guess that's it. It is what it is. And like I said, y'all, lastly, make sure y'all check out Yoda and Claire on Instagram. They got some really great products that I love and I have been using for a short amount of time. But like I said, they've had some really good impact. So with that, y'all, just continue to support, continue to watch the videos, share it with a friend that you feel like could benefit from this or take something away. Make sure y'all subscribe so we can reach that goal. And just continue to support the journey, because I look forward to bringing y'all more entertaining guests and more entertaining episodes. Love y'all, and I'll see y'all soon.